All right, welcome back. We continue with the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, talking Penguins, who return to the ice this Friday against Philadelphia. Last time we saw them was kind of a stinkeroo out in Philly. They just seemed not to be interested. They lost that game. Josh Yohe, when they come back, they got a whole bunch of Metro games head-to-head here. But I want to talk about the goaltending, what you expect Mike Sullivan to do with it, because quite frankly, Matt Murray has outplayed Tristan Jarry, who was an all-star this weekend. But over the last couple of weeks, it's been Murray. Who does he go to?
Yeah, the last couple of weeks, Murray has outplayed Jarry, but in the last couple of months, Jarry has outplayed Murray. I expect it's simply going to become a may the best man win situation. I think they're both going to play a lot. The Penguins have such of a busy schedule in the next month. They basically play on average every other night, really through the end of March. So there's going to be enough time for both of them to play. I always sense with Mike Sullivan, and we saw this years ago with Murray and Fleury, you always get the feeling that in the end, when the biggest games show up, when April arrives, he wants Matt Murray to be the guy. Now, will that be the case this spring? I don't know. But I still think if all things are even, he'll probably get the nod. But you cannot deny that Tristan Jarry has been arguably the best goalie in hockey the last 2 months. So they're both going to play. And whoever plays better, I believe, will play in Game 1 in the playoffs.
Well, you're exactly right, Josh. If all things are even, they're not. Because
not
Matt
right
Murray's
now.
won 2 cups with Mike Sullivan. So they're not even. Jarry has to completely outplay Matt Murray down the stretch to get the nod. And Bob knows this. I've been pounding this drum on the nightly sports call quite a bit of late. I still am of the opinion that when Game 1 of the playoffs opens up, Matt Murray is going to be the starting goaltender. I think things will really have to go badly for Murray. Things will have to go great for Jarry for Sullivan to not go with Murray to open up the playoffs.
Well, I'll make it unanimous. I agree totally, but I think it's a wonderful situation to have. I hear people say trade Murray. You know, you need both of those guys probably will play in the playoffs. What, 3 of their 5 cups, they've needed at least 2. The one year they needed Zatkov, they needed 3 goaltenders. I think it's going to be Murray too. But I think it's a great problem to have, a great situation to have, and I won't be surprised if they both play in the playoffs.
So, of all the great things Mike Sullivan has done as Penguins head coach, by the way, he almost always picks the right goaltender. He had to deal with a heck of a situation with Fleury and Murray a few years ago, handled it perfectly, and I think he's handled this one very well also. But I agree, if all things are even, if their numbers are close to identical or similar in the last couple of months, I just feel like Murray's still more likely to get the call.
Tim, let me ask you about the Penguins. They're currently second in the division, closing in on Washington. They also are 4th best record in the NHL. Some would argue they don't need to do much. Just get healthy Dumoulin back, healthy Schultz back, which they will. What do they need? And do you think Jim Rutherford will make a deal before the deadline? And what do they have to offer to get something back?
They have picks, and that's about it, because I don't think Nick Bukestad gets you very much. Maybe Justin Schultz because of the way that Marino has performed, and like you said, if Dumoulin comes back. But I'm not of the opinion that they can just stand pat and be fine with that. I do think you need another wing, not just to replace Jake Gensel, but what if Brian Rust actually comes to the realization that he's not Pavel Bure? Or what if he gets hurt again? I think not only getting another winger helps for the now, for the replacement of Gensel, but it's also buffer, it's also insurance in case one of the other wingers that's playing decently right now gets hurt or falls off.
Yeah, I think they have to do a wing too. The loss of Gensel's 40 goals is going to hurt more and more as the season goes along and the games become tighter, and certainly in the playoffs. I don't know if you need a major move here. I mean, I guess they have that #1 draft choice. They could bring in there somebody decent to help them fill that void. I don't think there's any question they're going to have to do something, and Jim Rutherford's certainly shown he's willing to do it.
Wasn't it interesting in Philadelphia last week? Mike Sullivan, for the final 30 minutes of the game, put Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin on the same line. I don't recall him ever doing that during his tenure in Pittsburgh. That just kind of illustrated the fact that, yes, they do have some good wingers, but they need another top 6 guy pretty clearly. Jim Rutherford does not like to trade prospects when he knows they're good. He would much rather trade a draft pick. He has told me that a million times, that draft picks are a crapshoot. You don't know. Prospects, when we get a good one, we don't like to trade those guys. So he'll trade draft picks. He'll trade the first pick if he has to. They need a top 6 winger. This is clearly a team that's capable of winning a Stanley Cup. And we know for a fact that Jim Rutherford will do everything in his power to give Mike Sullivan the best roster possible. I promise you there's a trade coming.
I agree with that. All right, now it's time to go around the horn for this week's Smooth Moves, which are brought to you by Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite, marble, and quartz countertops you're going to find, Armina Stone. Smooth Moves, Josh, you first.
I have to go with Chris Letang. Chris is a perfectly fine interview. He's a smart guy. But what a good move to just give his son Alex the podium at the All-Star break in St. Louis. Alex was fantastic. His old man didn't have to do much of the work in dealing with the media, which is probably a nice break for him. That kid looks like a star to me.
Mine goes to West Virginia coach Bob Huggins. Got win number 876 yesterday. Matches Adolph Rupp for 7th place on the all-time list. Needs 4 to pass Dean Smith. Huggins is one of the all-time great characters and one of the all-time great coaches.
I know we're going to talk about Kobe Bryant a little bit later on in the program, but my smooth move will go to the Spurs and Raptors for how they handled their game, where they just rolled the ball over the timeline and then let the shot clock expire to wind down from 24, so everybody recognized the number 24. I thought that was well done. There's a little bit of irony because I think we all know Kobe never would have let the shot clock run out, but I thought that was a nice tribute that they did for Kobe Bryant. And I know we'll talk about it more, but I just wanted to throw that one in there, having heard about that one.
All 3 good smooth moves. Armina Stone is Pittsburgh's largest supplier of the smoothest granite and marble quartz countertops you're going to find anywhere. Check them out. Armina Stone. Score a touchdown with them next when you need new granite, marble, or quartz. We'll be back with some Steelers talk. Super Bowl week next.